Good morning, basketball fans, and welcome to another episode of the Upstate Hoops Podcast on FingerLakes1.tv. I'm Jim Sinacropi along with Matt Verkey and Dave Barnick. And week one of sectionals was full of great games, and we'll have 7 Wayne Finger Lakes boys teams still alive heading into the semifinals this week. We'll break down all the matchups straight ahead on the Upstate Hoops Podcast. Well, sorry about that. A little frozen action on our intro. That's okay, though. Upstate Hoops Podcast and all our coverage of Wayne Finger Lakes High School basketball is brought to you thanks to the support of Generations Bank with locations in Auburn, Farmington, Geneva, Phelps, Seneca Falls, Union Springs, and Waterloo. Check out their mobile banking app and visit them online at mygenbank.com. And by FLCC, thinking about life after high school, get your degree at Finger Lakes Community College. And by Dr. Rod Littlejohn, delivering over 30 years of smiles with styles. So, Dave and Verk, welcome to the show, guys. How you doing this morning?
Morning. Great to be here, driving in from the home of the number 1 seeded Lady Falcon girls.
And there's Lady Falcon fever going on down there in Ovid, right?
Yeah, it was. People were kind of pumped.
A legitimate state title contender, Dave?
I can't say that. I just don't know enough about the other teams. But when we talk about the girls, we can get into my thoughts on them, if you wish.
Sure, absolutely. So, in Verk, you and Dave both called that Minders RCMCS game, and we were a little worried for Minders having that tough draw, but no problems, really.
Yeah, RCMCS, they were missing a couple kids who, might have made a difference in that game, but, Minders did a nice job after kind of a sloppy first half. They really came out and went to their zone in the second half and, really held RCMCS down and did a great job of advancing.
Never saw a player that I can recall hit those high-arcing three-pointers like the kid from RCMCS did. 4 of them in the first half the other day.
Yeah, we had that game up on video replay, and I was producing the game kind of in the back corner. I didn't get to see a lot of those, but man, that was a high arc on that shot.
Yeah, I think I said it during the broadcast. Probably about the most arc I've ever seen on a shot, and credit to him because and you shoot him from about 25 foot as well. It's 25 feet, so
you got to be strong to be able to throw it that far and that high and make the shot.
No doubt.
So, guys, let's take a look real quick here on the boys' side of things. We've got 7 teams left out of the 24 that started. Newark in B1, Newark and Pelmac still alive. B2, North Rose-Wolcott and Minders. And in C1, we got a semifinal matchup between East Rochester and Clyde. And then down in D1, Naples still alive, trying to make a push towards Alfred because the D school is not going to the Blue Cross this year for the finals. So these teams are all 1 game away from the big house right now. The only ones matched up against each other, East Rochester and Clyde. And, of course, Wayne lost last night in A2, so we got nobody in A2. And C2 is a little disappointing, too, to see nobody make it through. We were high on maybe Lions having a shot and Dundee, but just in the I even had South Seneca maybe winning the game. They came close, only lost by 3 to Campbell-Savona, I believe. So
apparently they had 4 chances in the final minute to win that game.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, probably not a legitimate shot at a sectional title there, but it's always nice to extend those seasons 1 more game and get some experience for your younger players. But yeah, at this point, pretty happy with what we got left, and hoping to see as many of these last remaining 7 teams in the Blue Cross Arena this weekend. So certainly a lot to talk about, and let's kind of start out. This is a bracket edition. We're gonna go through the brackets one by one. And let's start with the girls' brackets. And let's start with, real quick, we'll go through the brackets that don't involve any Wayne Finger Lakes teams. Double A, Victor girls are in there against Hilton, and then Penfield Fairport at the top. Like I said, not much to really talk about there. Let's kick it over and show you A1, where we have Our Lady of Mercy playing Spencerport, Bishop Kearney, and I didn't get a result of that Brighton Irondequoit game. I don't know if anybody knows, but
I don't know. Good to see Bishop Kearney up in the A's this year because I know the Miners girls have played them a couple times the last few years. So good to get them out of the B's.
Yeah, and they're
and C's. One year we played them as a C.
They're favorites, I think, to win A1 at this point too. Although Our Lady of Mercy's been pretty good. They killed Geneva when they played, and they've been really rolling along. So Our Lady of Mercy, the top seed there. Kick it down to A2, where we do have some Finger Lakes flavor between with Geneva and Wayne. Usually one of those teams, if not both, are in there in the finals. This year, not going to happen. Honeoye Falls Lima beats Geneva and Ed Collins' team, and Sutherland beats the Lady Eagles from Wayne. So it's Batavia, Honeoye Falls, Pittsford Mendon, and Pittsford Sutherland there in A2. And now let's kick it down to B1. And good for Ken Lauer and the Newark Reds making it to the semifinals. They have to play Hornell just like the Newark boys do. And Palmac a little disappointed, a little upset there by Bath Haverling, and Livonia top seed in the girls and boys for B1. So great program there in Livonia. Like I would love to see Newark advance and playing that championship game.
Yeah, I think Newark has a decent shot of moving past Hornell. The Finger Lakes East is typically a tough girls' league. A little surprised seeing, usually the two best teams are Geneva and Wayne, like you mentioned. Not as deep or as good as they've been in years past. They don't have the stud players that they've had in years past, so early exit for them. But, nice to see Newark advancing here.
So kick it down to B2. And the Miners Academy Lady Blue Devils, Verk, you were at that game yesterday, and they just rolled over old poor North Rose-Wolcott.
Yeah, North Rose didn't really stand a chance in that one. Miners just more talented. That's a matchup where if they played 10 times, Miners wins by 30 10 times. But even with the mismatch of talent, I thought Miners played extremely well. They had a lot of contributions, really passed the ball well, and they just really, they used their press, hit it probably. It seemed like they hit 12, 13 three-pointers. A lot of contributions from all the girls, which is good to see. And Heidi Miller was on the bench, enclosed, didn't play. Obviously not needed in this one.
But maybe next game, they're saying?
I'm not exactly sure where she stands, but good to see her, with her uniform back on. She had a little brace on her ankle, and, hopefully she'll be back. Obviously one of the better players in that class and, really in the area. So, if she comes back, it just makes Miners that much better.
Yeah, and they've been playing great as it is. A little fun fact, just for entertainment, actually not for entertainment, Verk and I put a little $5 wager on that Miners game. I took Miners minus 29, and I won easily. I think I had that spread covered in the first half.
I was counting on a little more, clearing the benches a little bit earlier, I guess. And Miners' bench was better than their bench, though. So
you didn't get to your former teammate there, Jerry, and arrange that ahead of time, huh?
No, I don't think there's much he could have done to prevent that from happening. So
that's B2. We'll follow the Lady Blue Devils right along, and let's take a look now at C1, where East Rochester makes it to the semis against Avon. Gananda upset. Gananda had a great year in Wayne County champs.
Yeah, I think typically Wayne County Girls League is not that strong. They've had I think last year Minders, I think they played ER Gananda, who won the Wayne County League, and we beat them by 30. And last year Minders was like 10-10 in the Finger Lakes. So typically not a strong Wayne County Girls League. But every once in a while they get Lions has won sectional titles in the past.
Lions
Clyde,
still alive too.
Yeah,
we'll see.
It just depends on every once in a while they do get good teams, but compared to the East, Wayne County is a little bit down, and good to see East Rochester advancing there at least though.
Actually, I was wrong about that. Lions did not. They lost to Oakfield, Alabama yesterday afternoon. But Dave, there they are. The number one seeded South Seneca Lady Falcons. They'll have to play Boulevard Richburg in Bloomfield. That's a gymnasium that they're familiar with. That's good. Should be heavy favorites to make it to the finals in Rush Henrietta on Saturday at 11 a.m.
Going over those larger classifications, what I like, you said Newark is still alive. Well, South Seneca beat Newark in a Christmas tournament, and I think they were respectable against Victor in a loss there.
Yeah, it's
in
a
the
close game.
finals.
Close
So
game.
that bodes very well for Heather Mott's crew.
They split with Minders, who's still alive in B2.
The thing, their press, the team they played, Kendall, not poorly coached. They knew what they needed to do to break the press. They simply did not have the athletes, the speed or quickness that South Seneca had, which came within about 30 seconds of posting a shutout in the first quarter. The score after one quarter was 27-3 before falling 59-19. And I know I texted you, if it was a prize fight, they would have stopped it. But the Achilles heel, in my opinion, for the Falcons, first of all, you have to be able to break the press, and if you have some size, South Seneca, they have a great athlete in Emily Lavarnway. I would love for her to develop some back-to-the-basket moves. But they're a well-rounded, fast team. They're hungry, led by Mackenzie Kenyon and others. I certainly hope they win the sectionals, and it would be icing on the cake to go a couple of steps further, if not all the way.
In a big upset in C2, we just talked about the Wayne County League maybe not being as strong. Marion earned a 2 seed. They were in our Super 6 for a lot of the second half of the season, but they fell to Perry, the 7 seed. So, we're rooting for the Lady Falcons and, through this and hopefully beyond. And then also, Dave, next year, they're a young team. They don't lose anybody, really, do they?
They don't start a single senior. They right now they're about 8 deep, and JVs were respectable as well, and they seem to have it going real well. Again, if their press is effective, if you get them in a slow down half court game, and they're not shooting well, they could be challenged. But right now they're playing very well.
So now let's kick it down to Class D1 for the girls, and the had a little Wayne Finger Lakes matchup in the quarters between HAC and Naples. HAC survives, and they're representing the Finger Lakes West now. Going forward, they have a tough task in the 1C Wheatland Chi-Li. If they win, they advance to Letchworth for an 8 p.m. final on Friday night. The bottom half, Genesee Valley York. And what I'm seeing with a lot of these brackets is a lot of these schools, boys and girls, are the ones that are winning. So, and I think we see that a little bit here in Seneca Falls with Minders, is that both programs kind of feed off each other.
Minders typically in basketball has been strong in both, especially over the last several years here. With the girls kind of on the downside of that a little bit, getting beat up in league play a little bit over the last 3, 4, 5 years, but hanging banners on the wall, winning a couple sectional titles here. I think they got 2 in the last 4 years. So, that's really what, in Seneca Falls, what people talk about are those sectional titles.
And speaking of sectional titles, another one of Dave's favorite schools in D2, the Romulus Lady Warriors they're a little bit down for what they have been in the past this year, but here they are, 1 game away from another sectional final game, which would be how many in a row, Dave?
I'm not sure how many in a row, but I know they slid in the last month of the regular season.
Yeah, surprising.
But I think they had a great carryover from last year. Winning breeds winning, and those girls had a good regular season. And then when they get in the smaller class against other schools their size, they have I would think, an excellent chance to cap off another title.
Yeah, I would think, it's kind of like Minders playing up in the Finger Lakes East, Romulus. Not that they take their lumps a lot in the West, but, they play pretty good competition playing, South Seneca, HAC, some of the Dundee, some of the, not big schools, but bigger than them.
Exactly.
And, now they get to play these tiny schools from all over Section 5. I'm not exactly where all those places are necessarily, but, they're well coached. Like you said, they're coming off a state.
That's always the risk, that they can't find where they're supposed to play at
no
in some of those southern tier schools. But, again, credit, one of the things Heather Mott did for South Seneca, her non-league schedule, she purposely scheduled bigger schools to season them for this run. And it seems to be paying dividends for them as Romulus, as we just talked about as well.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. So before we get into the boys, on Wednesday night, because of the cancellations Tuesday, there was 158 teams in action between the boys and the girls on Wednesday night. That's just incredible amount. And it got me thinking of how, of course, Tuesday was postponed due to Winter Storm Olympia, but how difficult a task it is for Section 5 to organize this tournament and really all the action.
Well, you talk about finding
guys.
referees. I'm sure some guys were scheduled to do Tuesday, Wednesday games,
79 games. That's 158 referees.
And they get so much abuse.
Oh, nobody gets more abuse than a high school referee, no doubt.
Really, in general, do a very good job, especially when you see how many mistakes are made at higher levels.
Yeah, it's
not easy.
Difficult game to officiate.
I know I'm a much different spectator as a broadcaster or a nonpartisan than I was as a parent. I'll say
that. Yeah. Well, you talk to any parent. You could talk to the same game and talk to parents from either side, and they're going to tell you the refs they're bad. They're both going to say they were bad. It's just kind of the way it is, and I feel bad for some of these refs because they do take so much abuse, but it's just part of it.
Except for Tommy DeSanto. He deserves all the abuse he can get officiating high school football or volleyball as he does. Just kidding, Tom.
Yeah, it's tough. And as a coach and a player, I think the best thing is do is, not complain. Just move on and teach the players, hey, you're going to get hit. You're going to miss calls. But put it behind you because there's times where a ref, a kid can get taken right out of the game if he thinks he's getting screwed. They got to learn to just move on. It's over. Move on. They're not going to change the call.
You really appreciate the good officials, too, who know how to manage games, manage fans versus ones that are a little hypersensitive.
Yeah, that's all part of it. It's all part of it. That's I think what makes an official bad is when they have the rabbit ears and they let that infect, what they're doing. But
although, pardon me, but I know there was a game some 20 years ago plus where at a state semifinal game, I cannot recall seeing two worst officials at a state semifinal game when a fellow by the name of Matt Verke and the Miners Academy Blue Devils got by a guy, George Mardigan, was that his name?
Yeah, the coach for Waterville Elite.
Yeah, Waterville Elite, who made Bobby Knight look like something of a choir boy in that game. But those officials were, I don't know where they dragged them in from.
Yeah, well, that was kind of shocking because you guys were rolling along pretty well, and then that game, you were lucky. Didn't you have 4 points that game?
Yep.
I mean,
I picked up my fourth foul with 6 minutes to go in the third quarter, and luckily, my teammates stepped up. We talked about Coach Anderson, Kevin Korzeniewski. Those guys played great. Mark Scalzo. So it was definitely a different game for us. And they were a good team. They're well coached, but their coach was on the floor several times, and he ended up getting teed up. I think one of their players got teed up. At the end, we ended up pulling. They got a couple technicals to end the game, and we won by 7 or 8, 9 points.
I think part of the job of a high school ref is to make sure that you're not influencing the game by getting the best player on either team in sectionals. You give them the benefit of the doubt. Don't get them in early foul trouble. Let the players decide it, right? I think that's a mark of a good referee.
No doubt about it. Definitely you want the players to decide the game. You don't want the referees in there.
Saw some fireworks with players and officials on the collegiate level yesterday. Duke, Louisville, and the Kentucky game too.
Yeah. It's tough because the officials can't have such a great impact on the outcome. So, and most of the calls could be viewed either way. Like it's a tough game to referee. But
no doubt.
Talking about all these teams in action. And talking about teams like Lions, they have to drive 2.5 hours. Do you guys think Section 5 is just too big geographically? I mean, why would Lions have to travel to the Pennsylvania border to play a team? There's no connection there. It seems like there should be another section down there in the far southwest.
Yeah, but if you look at the brackets, there's not, you got Romulus. You take away all those teams, who are they going to play? There's
not a lot of D2.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about, some of these smaller schools in the westernmost part of the section. And every section's kind of like that. And, it's like I think what my dad said to Coach Young was win more games. And then they got to come to your place.
Oh, yeah.
Did they change the rule on the distance a few years ago?
If it's a school night, there's a distance, there's a travel. If it's so many miles, they'll meet halfway. But there's no school last week. So you can... I believe that's right. So with no school, there's no
No,
rule on
it's
the
unlimited
distance,
the distance. And weather, which played a fact this past Tuesday, could, from the forecast, play into
Wednesday
things
night.
Wednesday. Yeah.
The night of the big semifinals in Victor. So yeah, let's kick it over to the boys, and we're going to be doing a lot of broadcasts this week. Just give you a heads up. They're going to be radio style for the most part. I haven't really decided about Victor yet, but we're going to stream them on FL1 radio as audio-only coverage for these games, and then repost a video replay the next day. We'll actually schedule time so you could watch the live stream of the video replay if you'd like. But then we head right to the Blue Cross for the weekend, and that will probably be the traditional game cast that we do for the postseason. But the problem is Section 5 doesn't let us show live in-game images. So since we normally broadcast and everything we do here out of the studio, our remote is through YouTube on FingerLakes1.tv. When we broadcast the game, we do a game center style presentation, which has some graphics, some shots from inside the arena. You can see the announcers. I think it makes you feel a little bit more like you're there. But when the game starts, we don't show it. So you wouldn't believe the hate emails I get from people. They're like, what the heck? Where's the game? You guys are there. Why won't you show the game? And
Right.
they're just not listening when we tell them that Section 5 doesn't allow us to do it. They must have missed that part.
I ran into that yesterday. Heidi Shawless, she's a teacher at Minders. She has 2 daughters who are outstanding starters on the girls' team. And a niece also is another starter. And she was so upset that she had to see my mug. She said, at least show more of Matt Verke, will you?
I don't know if they want to see that either, Dave. But, yeah, it does kind of, obviously not being able to show live game footage is hurts,
frustrating.
But, we get it out there, and like you said, you dub it in later.
Yeah, and I think we do a good job, with whatever we can do. But it is frustrating when you do something all year long and you receive a lot of positive response, and then you do something different for the bigger games that everybody wants to watch, and some people don't really understand that, so they really think that we're like not showing the game because we're like making a mistake or something.
Right.
It is nice to see how many people are tuning into these games, though. I noticed that going to the South Seneca game, how many people were viewing / listening to the Minders game the night before.
Yeah, it's fun, and part of what we do is because I think it's a great product. I think that Section 5 Wayne Finger Lakes basketball, in the time of year we are around here, is a legitimate draw. People should be interested, and I'm not talking people that have kids on the team. I'm talking casual basketball fans, and so I think it's coming along. And as the years go along, it's going to be even easier and easier for us to get those games up on the TV. On your TV set in your living room. And, it's already happening now. Most people know how to do it, but it'll become even a little easier as we go on, and hopefully we'll expand and continue to do more games if we have the sponsorship. So let's...
That's a key that I think we should emphasize a bit. The sponsorship, very, very important. We appreciate what we have, and I know... you would appreciate more of that.
Yeah, I mean, really, we have so many people that like working these games on our team here that if we can get the funding to do more games, we'll do them. We'll do them. I do a game every night. Maybe I won't be there for everyone,
right.
But we can do it. So speaking of games every night, a lot of boys' games this week. We're going to be at one on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and Friday at the Blue Cross. So let's kind of kick it over to the boys' brackets, and we'll start with Double-A here, where this is really just a fantastic Final Four. And if anybody gets a chance to go up to that championship or even that Wednesday night at Blue Cross, you see some great basketball. One-seeded Fairport takes on Bishop Kearney. East High takes on Aquinas. After East High defeated McQuaid, on the last 6 seconds left, they hit a shot. They had 6 guys on the court, and the officials didn't call it. They should have been a technical, and East High should have lost.
Mm-hmm.
But
East ended up hitting a ball. Yeah, they were down 1 and sent 6 players out there. Apparently, I saw a little bit of video on it, but I don't know. Supposedly McQuaid is protesting. I don't know what can be done at this point about that, but my guess is that that's going to stand.
Right.
Official error. East moves on.
And it's just as much on the McQuaid or on the McQuaid coach could have seen it too, and maybe called it out. So
I don't know. Maybe he did, and maybe I don't know.
That's true.
Maybe it just happened so fast.
East perhaps taking a page out of the South Seneca JV boys playbook, as they had 6 players out in the court earlier in the season.
Maybe they got some of that tape and saw how they.
Although the officials caught that one.
And McQuaid has a freshman who's being recruited heavily by Syracuse already. So
I saw him in the highlights. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's gonna be and supposedly he's gonna stay in Rochester. I guess some prep schools are looking at him to take him out of the area, but I guess he wants to stay here, and should be fun watching him over the next 3 years.
So that it would be AA, and then we look at A1. Greece Athena, the class of A1, they got Irondequoit, Greece Arcadia versus Pittsford Sutherland. Like Athena's chance here.
Yeah, I think Athena's a heavy favorite. Their only loss this year was coming to Fairport, and I think they pretty much have dominated in every other game.
And tough road to the in A1 for Port Canandaigua there, but now we'll get into some classes that have some local teams. Although no local teams, Wayne Finger Lakes teams are left in A2. Wayne gave University Prep a decent game. They lost by 8 on the road. So this Final Four in A2 looks like Honeoye Falls Lima against Wilson and Batavia versus UPrep. And Batavia Verk is a school that just is there every year. It seems like every year we go to the Blue Cross, they're there. Geneva lost, beat them in the semis at the Blue Cross a couple years ago.
They beat Newark. Yeah, and some of those kids are still there. Chenault, I think we still see his name from Batavia, but they're very well coached, and they always have good players. And this one's kind of up in the air. I wouldn't even know who to pick out of these guys. I haven't seen them play too much. I knew Wilson was pretty strong coming in. I think between any of those guys can win it.
And go ahead, Dave.
An interesting thing about Batavia, is the parochial schools have struggled with enrollment. Notre Dame of Batavia, of course, a great history of sectional finals and sectional championships. And I kind of wonder if Batavia High might be getting a couple of those athletes that they didn't used to get that are helping them in recent years. Yeah, they've had a pretty good history on their own as it is. But it's just an interesting thing to look at.
And, looking here, too, you're looking at 2 private schools and 2 public schools, which you're going to see as a theme of a lot of these semifinals. Yep. So that debate will rage on, the public versus private or charter, again this year. But it ends up, I think it ends up being a pretty good mix.
Amber Alert.
Oh, boy. You heard it here first
on
the Upstate Hoops podcast. Oh, it might be my phone.
Yeah, I turned mine off, but the sound. But maybe the Amber Alert supersedes that. I have no idea.
Yeah, that was an Amber Alert message there. So
I appreciate it being the middle of the morning instead of the middle of the night.
I got a text from. Listen to this. This is actually pretty weird. I got a text from Will Dumont. He's on the staff down there at Red Creek. And he says that they have a 75-mile rule because if you notice, Red Creek ended up playing at North Rose-Wolcott instead of home for their first-round matchup. Their gym is 75.7 miles away. So they had to move just one town over to North Rose to get under 75, which...
it's not midway point. That's I remember Berkey mentioned, Matt...
It just needs to be under 75 miles, I guess.
Man, you think they could have drove the extra mile?
I know, but the visiting team probably was like, no, but
get them off their home court. I guess if you have
it may have ended up hurting them, Dave, though, because the North Rose students really showed out in support of Red Creek in that game. So not only do they have the Red Creek fans, but they had the North Rose fans, and it may have been even a bigger advantage for Red Creek, who ultimately lost in the next round, but. I thought that was interesting that the North Rose students would show up and support their rival, But that's how it is, Once you step outside of your league and play some of these, other foreign schools, then you usually root for your rivals.
Sure, definitely.
To a point, depending on how
we can see that with Minders South Seneca girls.
Oh yeah. I think that they would both support each other.
Back.
I think that you get a lot of support from either one there. I know that we're Minders guys, and we're rooting for the Lady Falcons too. So yeah, now let's kick it down into the B classifications, and this is where it really starts to get interesting for us. And wow, what a night Friday night was, with all the score updates and all the teams in action. And the night really got off to a great start, because the first game at 6 o'clock, most of the games were 7. A 6 o'clock game was Pelmac at leadership, and Pelmac led right along the whole way, held them off at the end, and it's a 4-5 game. But anybody who follows basketball around here knows that leadership is a really strong B1 team school, private school, and I would have said that Pelmac was probably underdogs in that game. But they pull off the victory, and they advance to the first half or second half. They haven't set the time yet of that doubleheader Wednesday night in Victor, where they'll play a really tough Livonia team with Ricky Allen in his senior year, just a great player, great shooter, great point guard, and C.J. Richardson. Pelmac will have their hands full there. And then the second half of the doubleheader, Newark, down 11 at half to Mid Lakes, comes storming back to win by 2. Thanks to a last-second bucket from Ben Cowles off a pass from Jose Santel. And Cowles had a really nice game. He had his game of the year, like 16 points, and he had a lot of rebounds. Otherwise, Mid Lakes pulls that upset.
Quite a time to step up. He's been quiet all year. We hear a lot of the other names out of Newark, and Cowles usually isn't one of them. But, yeah, Mid Lakes had an 11-point lead in that game, and Mid Lake's a team who kind of got off to a hot start, and then they got into the heart of the Finger Lakes East and kind of got beat up a little bit. But, we always thought they had the capability, and, really, really strong game, and, just came up a little bit on the short end against Newark there.
Heartbreak City. Mid Lakes will be good going forward, though. They lose a couple of key senior contributors, but they also have some kids coming back, including sophomore point guard Bryce Burry. And then what was really upsetting is at the bottom there, Hornell, Penyan. Penyan was leading most of that game, and they couldn't pull it off in the end. Otherwise, we would have been guaranteed at least one team in B1 going to the Blue Cross. So,
a little low scoring game, 42-40. Hornell had a big 3-pointer, I guess, with 30 seconds to go or so, and Penyan wasn't able to score again after that. Coach Young was just texting me. I guess they moved that Hornell game to Penyan, so it might not be a doubleheader.
Wait a second. Are you kidding me?
No, that's what I just got a text saying.
Couple things. Tip your cap to Mid Lakes, the Screaming Eagles, for the overall efforts of their team all season long, including the tough loss the other night. But a question for you guys, which is reality-based. You have a player who starts for you, who may be arguably the best player on your squad, foregoes the sectional game to go on a family vacation.
Oh, yeah.
And apparently that happened.
Yeah. There's brothers, the State brothers, I think. Not to throw names out there, but they're sophomores. And, yeah, they missed their sectional game. I mean, Penyan, basketball in Penyan is secondary to lacrosse. I don't think that the top lacrosse players are scheduling vacation during.
I think and that we see that a lot. It comes up. It does come up during spring break for the baseball and lacrosse teams, but it's not during sectionals. That's almost, if you're going with your family somewhere, it's just a regular season game. But as a kid, how many times you get the chance to play in the high school sectional basketball tournament? Maybe if they play, Penyan wins and advances. Who knows? But it's a tough thing. And
what would you do, Matt, if you were the coach and your team won that game, and now you're?
I think you sit them for every game they miss. You sit them for another one.
That's simple and succinct.
And
but you're telling your teammates, "Hey, good luck, guys."
Right.
Me. You know what I mean?
I'll be at Disney World, right? And on Space Mountain.
How would they feel about this kid coming back and playing now?
And you also don't know. I mean, is it a kid decision or a parent decision?
Right. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, Verk, you're telling me that that Section 5 moved this bottom half of this doubleheader, which has been set at Victor since the beginning of the tournament,
Yes.
to Penn Yan.
Zach said single site, 7 p.m. start for both. May do boy-girl doubleheader for Newark girls
In Penn Yan.
in Penn Yan.
Well, we were set to go to Victor and do the doubleheader, and that's just really disappointing. Why would you set it and then change it? Is what I want to know. I don't know. There is nothing more difficult as a member of the media than covering these sectional playoffs because everything is uncertain, and when
And you don't know who's playing who until the last.
And none of that's
Sure.
definite. We're just speculating
right.
on the girls especially, but I'm pretty sure that the boys are going to play in Penn Yan.
Yeah, Zach's obviously a pretty good source of information for us, but
Chances are the Penn Yan crowd will not come out and root for Hornell that night.
no,
right?
probably not. Nor will they root for Newark because they probably won't turn out at all. You know.
They didn't really turn out for Penn Yan too much, I don't think.
Yeah, right.
So.
Yeah, I did get to meet. It should not be too harsh on the Penn Yan fans because when they were at Minders, we were at that game, Burke, and I met a lot of great fans from Penn Yan there who watch this podcast and who were willing to share a lot of great information about their team.
They had a tremendous history in girls basketball success too. We might mention.
Yeah, great programs across the board in Penn Yan athletically. And I really like that group this year. And the thing is, if they have their full strength against Hornell, they probably win, right? Those two kids are with
One basket.
Yeah, that's tough. And then maybe they'd be in Victor instead of, man, that really kind of I think you have everything set, and then you get a curveball thrown at you. And now we have to choose between those games whether we go to Newark Penn Yan or we do our Newark Cornell in Penn Yan or the Palmac game in Victor, and it's just too bad. It's doing both at the same exact time too.
Yep.
So, oh well. All right. Well, we'll figure that one out. Watch the.
I think what makes sense is they're both Hornell Newark are playing each other in boys and girls, so why not put them together for fan base?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you can watch them both play.
Yeah.
Right. That's a good call.
You know what I mean? It makes sense for both schools really to do it that way.
Yeah.
If it's able to work out.
Yeah, I could see for that particular reason. It's just in this case that semifinal has been set at Victor, and it was something I thought, well, hey, we don't got to worry about that one. But obviously I was wrong. So all right, let's kick it over now to B2. Well, actually, before we do that, I want to give some predictions, guys. What's B1 going to look like at the Blue Cross on Sunday night? Are we going to have one of these Wayne Finger Lakes teams there? Personally, I'm going to be rooting hard for Palmac. I think they're going to have their hands full, but I'm not going to underestimate Dan Harris's Red Raiders. I'm going to have them as like 3-point underdogs heading into that game against Livonia.
Well, you're on a hot streak with your predictions.
You've seen, you saw Livonia play last year. Palmac's good. They battled all year long. Their losses this year were. They battled Wilson right down to the end. We saw Wilson's still alive in A.
Another played a tough schedule.
They lost to Newark Minders and Penn Yan. They're really only. I wouldn't even call Penn Yan a bad loss. But Penn Yan did beat Palmac, which kind of knocked them down out of the race for the Finger Lakes East. But they're a good team. They got great guards, and whenever you have great guards, you're going to be in the game, and should be a great matchup with Livonia's guards. Ricky Allen. So I like to see. I think we're going to get an all Finger Lakes final there.
That would be fantastic.
The two things, a lot of times championship teams have that one close game that they kind of take a deep breath, escape with their lives. Newark would have done that against Mid-Lakes. Still, having said that, I'm going to pick Palmac to win the whole shooting match in that Class B1. And as I may have been the only one on the Finger Lakes 1 crew who picked them number one in the power rankings in the preseason.
That's true. Sure. Dave had Palmac 1 preseason power rankings.
Sticking with them.
I'm going, like I said, I'm going to be rooting hard for Palmac. I got to pick Livonia in that one. And then I got Newark beating Hornell. If that's the final, oh, man, it's the difference would be Taylor Clements. Livonia doesn't have anybody to match up with Clements. The sophomore big man could win that game for the Reds if it came down to it. I like the Reds to beat Hornell, no matter where they play it. And
what a nice move that Pelmac. Yeah, a few years ago it would have been Wayne County versus Finger Lakes East, and now they're rivals in the Finger Lakes East together.
Yeah, I would like to see Pelmac still play Lions and Clyde, maybe in some out of conference, but I think Pelmac belongs in the East. I think it's a good fit. Just as I think maybe Marcus Whitman belongs back in the East instead of the West, and the West can have Waterloo. What do you think of that?
I think you're being a bit facetious.
So anyways, let's kick it over to B2. And this is the one, guys, another one we're excited about. North Rose-Wolcott, number 1, rolling right into the semis. They got Attica. And first of all, congratulations to Coach O'Connor and his Marcus Whitman Wildcats on a league title, their first league title. They were a share of the Finger Lakes West title. And had a great season. They kind of stumbled early on. We thought they'd be good. They struggled early. They put it together. A great second half. Rode a great winning streak into this into the sectionals, and then a tough loss to Attica. Really wanted to see a North Rose Marcus Whitman rematch in the semis, but it didn't happen. But congratulations, Coach O'Connor. I think you're going to see Marcus Whitman, that program, get better and better over the next 5 to 10 years with Coach O'Connor kind of developing the youth programs, and there's a lot of good things going on in Gorham, Rushville area. So, and then down south here, Minders versus Wellsville, which has become one of probably the best rivalries in this class. They've played each other quite a bit over the past 4 or 5 years, and they're meeting again at Cal Mum on Tuesday night, and the North Rose Attica game will be at Aquinas on Tuesday night, both at 7. The Minders Wellsville game will be the one that's on FL1 radio, covered by Finger Lakes 1, and then we keep our fingers crossed for that final that we've been talking about all year between potentially North Rose and Minders at the Blue Cross, which would be fantastic. So, and that would be part of that Friday night bill in Rochester. What do you got?
That Wellsville Minders, I think the last time they met, I'm not positive, but when my cousin Dylan was playing, it was a senior, and they were coming off back-to-back sectional titles, and Wellsville pulled. I know you talked to their coach about that. Maybe one of the biggest upsets, going at the time, and it was a Minders team that was really, really good, and they held them down in the 30s, I believe, and pulled off a big upset. So, Minders looking for a little revenge in that game.
What do you think about this bracket, Dave? Are we going to see it? We're going to see the Cougars and the Blue Devils?
Well, I know everybody, the three of us in this room, want that matchup, and I'm kind of more than half expecting it, actually. And Minders is, boy, they are like the girl with the curl, really. When they're good, they're very good. And but the other night, they won by 20. They should have been up by at least that much by halftime, and they get a little bit ahead of themselves. They got a great effort off the bench by a sophomore with a career high, 19 points.
Devin Anderson.
For Devin Anderson. The interesting thing for North Rose-Wolcott, and as much as we would like Minders to win the whole shooting match, none of us are going to be overly disappointed because we all like that team. North Rose-Wolcott has an opportunity to pull off maybe an underappreciated daily double by winning the Section 5 title and the type of team from the top on down to get the sportsmanship trophy as well.
Yeah, North Rose is a team we followed close all year. You're not going to find a better group of kids. I like the Minders kids as well, but these North Rose kids they do it right. They play hard. They're well coached.
5 of them are seniors too, which is the difference. Minders still not senior laden.
Sure,
so
it's kind of a.
And Minders has had a really fine season too.
Sure.
While we appropriately laud North Rose-Wolcott, Minders is 17-4 now, or 18-4?
17-4. Yeah.
They've had a great season. Credit Nick Ciotti and the coaching staff and those kids.
It's tough. The expectations at Minders are so high, and Coach Ciotti goes 16-4 every year, and it seems like nobody's happy. He's done a great job. He's got this team right where they should be. They're they're playing well. They got a good rotation set now. I think the team's starting to gel a little bit. I think the difference for Minders is their big guys. They're Mean and Cafola are two athletic kids. I think that's going to be the difference. They rebound the ball really, really well. And, I look for Minders to advance past Wellsville. They got to keep, if they can keep Ebert under in the low 20s.
Low 20s, yeah.
I think they can win. He's going to get 20. I think no matter what, he's that good of a player. But I like Minders to advance there.
I would think, Matt, they can't afford to miss those point-blank shots.
As long as Ben Cafola doesn't try to dunk it. I saw him at the girls' game yesterday, and I gave him a little, I said, just put it in. And he agreed with me.
Yeah.
And Jake was disappointed that I didn't get more excited about his dunk. He said my partner got excited. And
that's a play-by-play guy.
Right. That's what I told him. I said, it's not my job. I said, it was a nice dunk, no doubt about it.
Minders' other Achilles, Matt, if they fall too much in love with that 3-ball.
Yes. Yep. And, I think the big guys got to touch it. And they've been doing a better, I thought against RCMCS they went inside a good amount. And, they really didn't shoot a lot of threes. And they when they did, they seemed to make them. So
who wins
if they play like that,
if they meet?
I couldn't even predict. I think it's a great game. They're similar. Neither one of them go too deep on their bench. I think Minders has more of a bench than they do. We got some kids on our bench that are good that really don't play that much. It should be a great matchup. I like Coach Hoyt a lot. He does things the right way as well, and it'd be fun to watch. Hopefully it happens.
Yeah, I'd go with pick. I'd make it a pick.
I think if it was the NBA best of 7, I'd give an edge to North Rose-Wolcott, but in a single game, the Minders, if they're rolling, it's a toss-up. I agree. It should be. We hope we see it.
Yeah.
And can give both teams hats off for great seasons.
Yeah, that's the big thing. We hope we see it, and whoever wins at that point. And we mentioned Coach Ciotti, like a lot of communities, taking a lot of heat from parents and the community in general. He has been very successful in winning. What he hasn't done yet is brought his team to the Blue Cross. So I think it's a big game for Coach Ciotti on Tuesday night. It's one that I think this year he's really got to win that game against Wellsville.
Yeah, they've been to the semis the last 2 years and got upset. 2 years ago was Gananda, Luke Ruddy's senior year. Wayne County team beat them, and last year was ER. Another Wayne County team got them, and those are in Class C. Now we're up in B, and competition's a little bit stiffer, I think, and they're going to have their hands full with Wellsville. But I think talent-wise, I think we're right there with them.
Would they rather have they beat Waterloo how many years? 18 games in a row or something
it's
crazy
up there,
like that?
Yeah.
And plus, I'll say this, Nick's a great guy.
Oh, yeah. No,
super
absolutely.
guy.
You're not going to fight him.
Is a good group of kids who behave themselves. They're an entertaining group, and they draw out the fans.
Yeah.
Yep. And they're going to be, I not to look forward, but Minders are going to be absolutely loaded next year. Their JV team, I think, lost one game, and the only player they lose that plays significantly is Cafola. And we got a bunch of kids coming up. His hardest problem next year is going to be playing time. They're going to have 12 kids who can play next year.
But they don't have any Matt Verkes on the team. And speaking of that, the modified or the young kids at South Seneca girls, I guess, hadn't had a game within 30 points this year. So when your girls add to that roster, Matt.
We beat South Seneca fifth graders twice this year.
Did
just
you?
For the record.
Yeah.
Once
Okay.
in overtime.
They were good. But the other thing is that they had 20 kids on their team, maybe.
Their best five probably better than our best five.
That would be a good game. But again, they were just fourth.
Well, they have
grade,
a state
so.
championship coach helping out with the little kids.
Sure.
So
That's how you build these programs.
He's the fifth grade coach.
Everett.
Yeah. I think his daughter's a sixth grader. Well, yeah, we play their sixth graders with our fifth graders, but.
All right, guys, let's take a look now at C1, which, excuse me, what a great matchup we have Monday night in Palmac. Finger Lakes 1 will be there doing an audio-only stream and then posting the video replay. East Rochester, Clyde, they split in the regular season. Teams 2 and 3 in the Wayne County standings behind North Rose-Wolcott. But the only reason they weren't up there with them is that they beat each other.
What time is that game?
That game is at 8:15. It's a late game. Yeah, there's a game before it, the bottom half, Avon and Early College. And so we're guaranteed one of these teams in the Blue Cross on Friday night, in which they're going to have to play a tough Avon team or a difficult private school in Early College.
Yeah, that Clyde ER game is a game I hope I could be. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it, but two schools that are just they get up and down. Clyde likes to play a lot of guys. I talked to a couple, Coach Hoyt and Coach Young, about that. They said their guards are as quick as anybody they've seen.
Absolutely.
And Clyde's got Chance, who's pretty quick in his own right, and I guess these guys are even quicker.
And Faneuil.
And Faneuil. I mean, so it's going to be it's going to be up and down.
It's going to be amazing. That game's going to be amazing.
It should be a fun game to watch.
Carnavelli had a great game shooting.
Yeah, I've said it all year long. I think you leave somebody open that I've seen play this year. I think he's the best shooter going. Carnavelli
as a sophomore.
As a sophomore, he's going to make it the majority of the time. He's got to work on a couple other things. He hasn't physically matured yet, but he's a shooter.
Got some good bloodlines there.
Yep.
And you look at this Clyde team. It wasn't a team that in the beginning of the year that we were saying, look out for Clyde, they're going to win sectionals or they're going to win Wayne County. They have really come together and are a really strong team. Every bit as strong as East Rochester and North Rose-Wolcott. The top of that Wayne County League, those top three,
sure,
unbelievable this year.
Yeah. And I think we saw Clyde's coming out party against Minders. They played early on at the Cairo College, and it was a close game at the half, and Minders ended up pulling away by 15-16, and I wasn't really that impressed with Clyde. And then they came into Minders' home court
a month later
and beat them, controlled that game. I think they're up 24-5 at one point. We did the game, and, from that point on, and we saw Clyde a few other times against Lions, and they're good. They're deep. They play full court pressure. The kids kind of know their roles for the most part, and you never know who it's going to be. It seems like you read the box score, and they got 6 guys who score between 10 and 18 points every game.
You got Canale, you got Carnavelli, Chance, Faneuil,
and Tim Jackson they have as well.
Yeah, and Tim Jackson doing a great job with this group. And I mentioned it before. I've talked to him on before the last game against Lions, and he had a story about every player, how this player has changed and done this, and now he's buying in, and these guys really like each other. And I think they're kind of feel like a team of the moment type of deal here. So, that'll be a late game on Monday night, tomorrow night, and we'll be there. And then, again, that bottom half, last year's final was East Rochester against Early College. Early College won. Was it C1 at the time, too? Was that C1 or was that C2?
I can't remember.
I think it was C1. And, Early College won that game, so we'll see which representative from Wayne County will battle either Avon or Early College there. And yeah, it's going to be really that Monday night game. It's going to be great. So let's move it down to C2. And, again, this is one of the more disappointing brackets for us. We were really high on Lions being able to make a run, and they ran into a difficult Perry team, and Jordan Amel, Devin Franklin got in some foul trouble, and while they held the lead early, they ultimately fell at Perry after taking 2 long road trips back-to-back, too,
Yeah.
And then Dundee led most of the game against Clyde-Savannah, and ultimately lost on their home court by 4, which would have set up an interesting game against North Star Christian. So now we got in C2 the number 1 seed North Star Christian, very good team, facing Campbell-Savannah. I like North Star in that one to advance. And then you got you want to talk about rivalries? How about Geneseo and Perry? If that doesn't mean anything to us here in the Finger Lakes, you go a little west and people will be talking about that one. So that's a marquee matchup too. Those games both at Mount Morris on Monday night. So that's what C2 looks like. And, of course, that C2 final game is going to be sandwiched between the B2 and the B1. The C1 and the B2 finals on Friday night, triple header. And we'll be there doing any games that involve Finger Lakes teams. And then the B1 final with Newark or Pelmac potentially will be Sunday at the Blue Cross, and that time is to be determined. So now, real quickly here, let's take a look at the D1 classifications. There you got Naples still alive, coming up big against Mount Morris to advance to face Ed Orman's York squad. Probably Naples a few-point underdog there. That game's at Keshequa, and then if they win, they advance to Alfred University on Saturday. And then the bottom half, a really good matchup between Genesee Valley and CG Finney. This is a tough task for Naples.
Yeah, Naples obviously down from last year, but they're also down in class, so they're down in D1. So you never know.
Yeah. And, yeah, you do never know. So we'll keep an eye on that one. And then the final class for the boys here, Class D2. You got a great Elba team facing Lima Christian and a really strong Avoca team at the 2 seed facing Prattsburg, another one of those schools that's there for the boys and girls. Winner to be part of that doubleheader Saturday at Elford University. You guys have any thoughts on the D2 bracket?
No, I haven't. Prattsburg and Avoca have good history, but I don't know anything about them this year.
Elba's a good sports school in general over the years.
So, our Minders girls play Wednesday at 7:45 at HFL.
Falls.
And that's a doubleheader with the other B2 game, and they play Waco, who's coached by Al Best, who coached won 2 sectional titles.
And
here
isn't
at
that
Minders.
something crazy?
So now Jerry coached under him, and now they're meeting up, and should be interesting.
Yeah, that is crazy how that plays out. So our broadcast schedule for the week ahead, okay? Monday night, we're going to be at the ER Clyde game, 8:15. Look for the links on the front page of FingerLakes1.com to listen to the audio-only stream, okay? And then come back the next day if you want to watch the full video replay, which will be available going forward. Tuesday night, we'll be at Cal Mum for that Minders game. We had to make a choice to go to Aquinas to watch North Rose. And that's one I really don't understand why that's not in the same place as a doubleheader, too. Those, Aquinas and Cal Mum aren't that far apart. But, what do I know about it?
I don't even know where Calmum is, but
it's just past Rochester, about 10 minutes south on the thruway. You'll get off the second Rochester exit and head south about 10 minutes.
Routes 5 and 20, you would hit Canandaigua, you would hit Bloomfield, you would hit Lima, then you would hit Caledonia.
Yeah. And the golf course down there, Caledonia Country Club.
Watch your speed in those little towns.
And then Aquinas, of course, is northwest Rochester.
The home of former home of junior poles, and of course, Kendall, which came into town, the former Roosevelt Bowie and
one of
family.
the worst analysts that you'll ever see on Channel Time Warner 26 and the postgame shows.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Jim. Just 1 second. That color commentator drove me crazy on the Syracuse game yesterday that I turned the volume down.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. One of the worst parts about going to the ACC have been the announcers, so... yeah. So I'm getting some texts in here. But anyways, Tuesday night, we'll do that Minders game. I wish we could be in the same place to do them both. Should be a doubleheader. I don't know why it isn't. It's the locations of the school seem like it would be. But we'll go to Cal Mum, audio-only stream. Listen to it on FL1 radio on your smartphone app, or go to the front page of FingerLakes1.com. And look for the links there to the live audio stream. And then Wednesday, we were going to Victor for a doubleheader between Leadership and Pelmac and Newark and Hornell, but now apparently we're not.
Pelmac and
Pelmac
Livonia.
and Livonia. I don't know what we're going to do there. So we're going to, luckily that's not till Wednesday, so we can maybe sort it out. But
we'll have to check the weather as well, I'm sure.
That's true.
That may play a part in all the scheduling.
Pena and Victor about the same distance, kind of. Pena maybe a little closer, but I'll tell you what, fans, if you're from Pelmac or you're from Newark, start emailing us at contact@fingerlakes1.com or hit us on Twitter @fingerlakes1. Start a campaign. If there is enough support one way or another, that's where we'll probably go, because right now I'm split. I don't know what to do. But I do know that this is going to be a great week of basketball, and I know that on Friday night we're going to be at the Blue Cross Arena, hopefully to see a handful of Finger Lakes 1 teams in the C1 and B2 finals, and then hopefully back at the Blue Cross on Sunday to see Pelmac, Newark, one of those two teams or both of those teams playing. And then after that, we'll just kind of see what happens and see how many sectional titles we have.
I think we also might have to plan on 3 o'clock at Rush Henrietta. Seneca Falls girls hopefully will be playing.
Well, and
on Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday at 3 at Rush.
And when would the South Seneca girls play?
Probably they'll be before
11 or 1,
that,
right?
Yeah, well, you know what?
I know I'll I know the girls will want to go to that game anyway.
Yeah. No,
if
I
they're
imagine.
there,
Yeah,
so.
you know what? We'll do that game too. It's just, man, what a week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Or maybe we could just tweet that game out or something like we've done.
Well,
that
you know what? I really feel the problem with the girls' games is a lot of them do come up at the same days. That's a different day. If we can get a doubleheader out of it, potentially even video for that game. The girls' Section 5 doesn't put any regulations on this, but the tough part is I don't know what's going on in that gym at Rush Henrietta.
Yeah, I don't either. It's a nice. I think it's a.
It's a large. It's a nice gymnasium.
Really nice. You'd probably have your own studio kind of going on. It's a. Is that RH? I said right?
Rush Henrietta. Yeah.
I think when the South Seneca Lady Falcons got their first sectional title under Everett Babcock some years ago, I think it was the first one. There were enough snowouts for the game that was then originally scheduled for the Blue Cross Arena that because of scheduling conflicts, they had to reschedule it. And it was at Rush Henrietta where they won the first.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking of Gates because I've been to Gates a couple times for games. I think that's where we saw. Where did we go last year?
We went last year to watch
Lions
against Middle Early College.
Right.
That was at Gates.
So I think Rush is similar to that.
And if I could throw one other thing in, Jim, we have certainly listeners throughout the Finger Lakes, but in Seneca County for Minders, South Seneca. You'd like to hear/see these girls' games being presented. We'd love some sponsorship, which would allow us the affordability to do so.
Yeah, that's a good point. We try to sell the sponsors at the beginning of the season, but as we head into postseason, last year we did a GoFundMe campaign to get us to Glens Falls to cover Lions. So, let us know if you can help. The phone number here at Finger Lakes One 315-712-0104. Email us at contact@fingerlakes1.com if you want to get us out there to that Rush Henrietta game for sure. Yeah, and we have our season-long sponsors, but we can have additional sponsors for these postseason games. So, fellas, thanks a lot for coming in tonight or this morning and sitting in studio and talking some hoops. It was fun. We got a great week ahead, and who knows what's going to happen. That's what makes it fun.
Enjoyed being here.
Great week of basketball coming up.
So follow fingerlakes1.com for all the results and all the live start times. And until no podcast next week, right? We're going to be too busy covering these games. We're going to go a week ahead, and we're going to come back with we'll recap all the action. We're going to give you our player of the year and all that kind of stuff to wrap up the whole season. So until then, for Dave Barnick and for my co-host Matt Verkey, I'm Jim Sinacropi. Good luck out there, all you Wayne Finger Lakes teams. Bring it home. Get to the Blue Cross or Alfred, but either way, or Rush Henrietta, wherever the girls are going. But keep on winning. Come on, let's go.